Hey, hello, friends at home. So today is Tuesday, and we just finished our Module 3 on multiplication, and now we're actually starting two different math skills. So we're going to be doing Module 4 on area, but we're also going to be doing some graphing. So you've been introduced to a little bit of graphing with your morning work. You've seen some bar graphs on there. You've seen some pictographs. And so we're going to work with that a little bit more extensively, and we're going to actually do some direct instruction. So that's what this video is about today. It's to introduce you to graphing, the different types of graphs, and maybe show you how to read a graph, a little introduction to that. So I am going to share my screen with you now. Okay, and let's see. Let's start right here. So various types of graphs. On this page, we have two graphs. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for you. So the first one is called a bar graph. And as you can see, it's called a bar graph because it has bars in it. And you've seen these a little bit on your morning work. You probably studied them even a little bit in second grade. Let's see if I can get my annotate feature going here. Here we go. Okay, so the bar graph tells you what you're looking at, so it gives you data. So there's your favorite type of movie is the title, so that tells you what you're going to learn about or what information you're going to learn about. And then over here, this is called the scale. And this is actually number of votes, and this scale counts by 5, 0, 5, 10. And then you can see these are the different categories or the labels at the bottom. There's comedy movies, action, romance, drama, and sci-fi. And then you can use the scale to help you read those graphs. And you can even see on this one how they did put the numbers at the top of the graph. And that's a good habit to get into once you start reading bar graphs. Okay, so that's a bar graph. That's one type. I'm going to clear my pictures. And then we are going to go to the next one. Now, the next one we won't be doing a lot of work with, but you might see them. This is called a line graph, and it has lines in it. And so all graphs really have a title. So this is the facts I got correct. So this could be a third grader's graph on their math facts, their multiplication facts. And again, it still has the scale, and it has a label on that side of the scale, number of facts correct. And then here at the bottom, it's got labels day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. And you can see this shows a trend. So on day 1, this person got 3 facts right. Day 2, they got 4. Day 3, they must have studied a lot. They went all the way up to 12. Or day 3 and day 4, they went up to 15. So that is called a line graph. We probably are not going to be doing a lot with that, but maybe you'll see them on in your Scholastic News magazines and places like that, maybe your nonfiction reading. All right, and let's go to the next one. Okay, this is a pictograph, and we've seen a lot of pictographs, haven't we, on our morning work? And so a pictograph, again, has a title. This is apples eaten each month, all right? And the big thing about a pictograph that makes it different from the other ones is this. It's called a key. So a pictograph has pictures, and the key is really the most important part of the pictograph because it aids you in reading the pictograph. If you didn't have that key, you wouldn't know what those apples stood for. You might assume that each apple meant one apple, but the picture of an apple actually means 10 apples. And then often you'll see this, a half of the picture means 5 apples, or half of 10, which is 5. So pictographs, I think, are kind of fun to read, and a good habit to get into, again, is showing how many is at the end of each category. So we have our categories here: January, February, March, April, the different months. If we look at this apple, it's 10, so we can put a 10 there. If we go to February, we can go 10, 20, 30, 40, and so we can put a 40 here. In March, it'd be 10, 20, and then 5 would be 25 apples in March. Okay, so that's really just a quick introduction to how you read a pictograph. And then I have one more I want to show you, and I'm pretty sure you've seen these in your Scholastic News. I know my class has. They show pie charts, which is another type of graph, whenever you're doing one of those opinion pieces and you get to vote your opinion. I know we just did one yesterday with my class on daylight savings time. So this is also a really popular way to present data. And there's no numbers here, but if you look at the pets bought at World of Pets, so that's what this is showing you. So it must be a pet store. And you can quickly look at that. And along with this key here, you can see which pet was sold most or which pet was bought most. And it was, of course, the dogs, because here's your dogs. And then the next most popular one was cats, because the orange indicates cats. Okay, so that's called a pie chart or a pie graph. And those are the four main types of graphs. There's a lot more, but we're going to be mostly working with bar graphs and pictographs. So we're going to answer this morning just a couple questions on a simple bar graph and a pictograph. So let's see, move that out of the way, make this a little bit smaller. Okay, so we have a bar graph here. It's very simple. Actually, they give us a little sample at the top. So this is our sample here. It says, look at the bar graph and answer the questions. I know I always like it when they do one for me, so I know what they're expecting. So on this bar graph, the sample one here, we have our scale again with our label on it, the number of pets. And then we have two people, Sarah and Paul. And you can look at that and see, using the scale, you can see that Sarah, trace this over, has 4 pets. And if we trace Paul's bar graph over, he has 3 pets. So which child has 3 pets? They answered the question using the graph and they said Paul. All right, so let's, knowing now that what we know about reading a bar graph, we're gonna read the next bar graph and just answer 5 simple questions about it, all right? It says, look at the bar graph and answer the questions. So let's make sure we know what the bar graph is about. So let's read it a little bit before we answer the questions. So this bar graph, the title is called Vacation Choices. So these are different choices of vacations, most popular vacations. You can look over here. This is called the scale. Remember that. This is called the scale. All right. This particular scale is counting the number of children, and it's skip counting by 2s, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So it's skip counting by 2s. It's good to look at the scale because they will often skip count by different intervals. All right. So if we look at this and we look at the different places, vacation choices, we have farm, camp, beach, city, and theme park. And if we look at the farm and we try to read that, remember I said it's good to put your numbers at the top. So farm is not at 0 because there's a little bit of graph there, but it's also not at 2. So if it's halfway between 0 and 2, what is halfway between 0 and 2? We can assume that that got 1 vote. All right, let's go to camp, and I'm going to use my finger and trace my bar over to the scale. And the bar is at the 6, so I'll put 6 people voted for camp. I'm going to do the same thing with beach and trace it over. And that had 8 people, 8 children choose beach, so I'll put an 8 there. So when you fill out this for your teacher and submit your template, please make sure you're doing this as well. It's a good habit to get into, writing the numbers that each bar represents at the top of the bar. So let's go to city again. That's tricky. It's not on either line. So it's in between the 2 and the 4. So if I trace it over, it's in between the 2 and the 4. So what is halfway between 2 and 4? That would be 3. And then the theme park is pretty easy. It's the very top line on my scale. So that is 12. All right, so let's see what kind of questions we might see when we're reading bar graphs. The first one says, how many children went to camp on vacation? So I'm going to go right to my camp bar, which is right here. I already have read that bar because I put the number at the top, so we can put 6 children. And it's a good idea to always dress up your numbers. Okay, don't just put 6, but let's put 6 children. Okay, the next question says, which place did 3 children go to? Again, I've already read my bars. I've got my numbers at the top, so I can see the place that had 3 children was circle it right there, the city. So the city had 3 children choose it as their favorite vacation spot. The third question says, which place did fewer children go to than to the city? So fewer means less, all right? And if I look at each choice, well, theme park, a lot of people voted for that, a lot more than city. Beach, we look at beach here, more people voted for the beach than the city. More people voted for the camp than the city. The only place where fewer children chose than the city was the farm. I hope you can see that farm was 1 and city was 3. So the farm had fewer people choose it. Whoops, don't want to write. Sorry. I want to write farm there. Sorry about that. It says, because it says which place did fewer children go to than the city. All right, and then the fourth question, which was the most popular place? So the most popular place is the one that got the most votes, or the one that most children voted for. So the most popular place for vacations, you can easily tell, you don't even have to look at the numbers, which one is the biggest bar. The biggest bar is right here, and that is the theme park. So which place was the most popular? The theme park. And then our last question for this simple bar graph is how many children altogether went on vacation? So when you have a question like this, it's really good to get in the habit of writing a number sentence. So how many children altogether went on vacation? I'm going to write my number sentence up here, and I'm going to start with farm. Farm was 1, and I need altogether. So this is going to be part, 5 parts that I have to add together. So 1 for the farm, 6 for the camp. Then I'm going to add 8 for the beach. I'm going to add 3 for the city, and then I'm going to add 12 for the theme park. And I have to add all those. Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm adding a string of numbers like this, I like to see how I can make friendly numbers. And I'm going to put 8 and 12 together because that makes 20. All right. And then I've got 1 and 6, which makes 7. And then 7 plus 3, how convenient. 7 and 3 make 10. So however you want to show this. So now I've got 20 plus 10, and that makes 30. So how many children altogether went on vacation? 30 children. So make sure you write your number sentence for this to get your 30. And you don't have to show that work that I did, but I just wanted to show you how my mind was mentally adding all those numbers up. So the total children went on vacation were 30. All right, let's clear our pictures. And now we're going to do a simple pictograph. All right. So again, we want to see what data this pictograph represents or is showing us. So it's children's favorite hobbies. So always read the title. It's called the title to see what you're going to learn about. And here we're learning about children's favorite hobbies. And then remember, this is a pictograph. The most important part of the pictograph is this key. So it's probably a good idea whenever you see a pictograph to circle that key, put a star by it or an asterisk or something to show you, you have to make sure you read the key in order to read the graph properly. Okay, so if each face equals 2 children, when I look at this pictograph, I notice that there's something missing. I'm missing my scale. There is no scale here. Okay, there's no scale, and that's okay. I don't need the scale because I'm using my pictures to help me with the counting of the votes. So pictographs, that's one thing, they do not have a scale. Instead, they have pictures, which help you count the number of people that voted for each category. So favorite children's hobbies, we got reading, we got sports, we got models, and we have games. So 4 different categories of hobbies. And I noticed right away that I see a half of a face. And I'm going to think, wow, what do I do with half of a face? It can't be 2. Well, if I take this half a face here and I cut it in half, you think, well, what is half of 2? Well, half of 2 is 1. So that half a face represents 1 vote. So let's go ahead and put our numbers at the top of each one of these categories. So reading has 2 plus a half a face, which is 1. So that means 3 children voted for reading as their favorite hobby. All right. If I go to sports, a lot of people voted for sports, and I can use skip counting to help me with this. So I can say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 10 children voted for sports. And I'm going to write those numbers right at the top of my picture, line of pictures. Okay. Let's look at models. So this must mean building models as a hobby. And I've got 2, 4, 6. So I'm going to put a 6 there. And then last but not least, how many people chose games as their hobby? It would be 2, 4. So I'll put a 4 there. All right. So hopefully that shows you quickly how to read a pictograph. You'll be getting a lot more practice with these. So now let's answer our questions based on this data or this information in the pictograph. It says, how many children enjoy making models? So I'm going to go to my models and I'm going to look at that, and it's 6. So I'm going to put 6 children. Remember, we want to dress up our numbers. Okay. The next question is, remember, they have a variety of questions, so it's not always about how many people, it might be about categories, which is exactly what this next question is. Which hobby is enjoyed by 4 children? So when I look at these, reading has 3, sports has 10, models is 6. Oh, there it is. Games is enjoyed by 4 children. So this question is actually asking us for which one of those hobbies is enjoyed by 4 children. So that is games. And then here is a really popular question that you might see going with pictographs or bar graphs. How many more children like games than reading? So what are we doing there? We're really comparing games and reading. And Mrs. Reed always likes to draw a comparison bar model for this. So one would be games and one would be reading. Games is 4. So I'm going to put that in the bigger bar and I'll put a G there. Reading is 3. So I'm going to put that in the smaller bar. And so I'm comparing 4 to 3 and say how much bigger is 4 than 3? My number sentence would be 4 minus 3 equals 1. Okay, so it is important for you to write this number sentence whenever you have anything like that. 4 minus 3 equals 1 because we're comparing. And so how many more children like games than reading? It would be 1 more child. Because it's 1, it will be singular. Okay, and then our very last question, which is the most popular hobby? The most popular one is the one that most people do or that most people chose. And the most popular hobby right here, again, we don't even have to know the number. We can look at the pictures and say that has the most smiley faces. So which is the most popular hobby? And we would write sports there. Okay. All right, boys and girls, there's your introduction to our new unit on graphing. You'll be seeing a lot more of that. You're going to be working on 2 skills at the same time, both area and graphing. Graphing is pretty simple, and we're doing that during our block periods in school. So we wanted to make sure you guys were getting the instruction for that. Please make sure that you answer these questions and submit this to your teacher. Okay, thanks so much and have a great day.